I lost all this money, and then I sold my car, and, oh yeah, Avis was pissed. Old people, can I talk about that? Please, they know what it's about. You're a vibrant, lovely couple. You're a vibrant and lovely couple! And what do you do? Okay, great. I understand. What do you do? Do you work? Thank you. That's what I thought. That's good. Are you with this girl over here?
She's my sister.
Oh, so... But you did not answer my question, really. Too single in this room. Yeah, but you raised it fast. You're a little needy. Anyone else?
I'm a nurse.
At a hospital or a private practice? Or
Retirement home.
I can't believe you're even smelling this good. I am fed up with you people in the back. I really am. I don't need you people. I don't care about you people.
Welder.
You're a welder. What do you do?
I work with dogs.
Who's a good welder? Who's a good welder? Why didn't you tell me before my fly was down?
I don't know. I thought you were going to take out another puppet. Welcome to Sesame Street on acid.
Oh, come on. All right. I'm going to kill you, John. Come on, don't say that. Crap.
Honey, I got so much medication in me, my urine has street value.
You take a horse steroid.
Oh yeah, how do you think I won 2 gold medals in the Kentucky Derby?
I don't know if you can tell, but I'm, you know, Jewish. And you're going to say gay, you bitch. I know you're going to say.
Hello and welcome to Landon Live. Today we have comedian, puppeteer, ventriloquist director, and writer, Michael Paul. Michael, how are you today?
Hey, how are you? I like your theme music.
Thank you.
The band is great.
Yeah. Well, let's just go ahead and get right into it. What was the driving force that got you into show business?
Oh my gosh. That's such a broad question. I had no other skills.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's not an unusual story. You know, like most of us, we were doing shows in our basement, or, you know, you'd make the family come sit in the living room on the couch, and then you stand in front, you do shows for everyone. It was always like that since the beginning. But puppets were, although I had done many things, puppets were always a thread for me. That was kind of like my first love. Even when I was, you know, could just start talking, it's really the only birthday present I wanted, you know.
Right. Wow. Wow. So did you always have puppets in your act as a ventriloquist, or was that a later decision?
You know, actually, I worked with puppets for when I was a kid. And, you know, I was like in, I don't know, 2nd grade, and my parents bought me a little stage, and I would do like birthday parties and Cub Scouts and make like $25 or whatever. My mom was my production manager, and she'd run the record, and we do little lip syncs and everything. Yes, the record, it's the big thing with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then, you know, I got tired of being beat up all the time for, you know, playing with dolls and puppets. And that kind of went away. I was like doing local, you know, acting and all of that. I had later been puppeteering for film and TV, even as a kid. And then I met Dan Horn, who you introduced. Okay. Well, first I met Ron Lucas. I had a summer job in Atlantic City when Atlantic City was still, you know, full of entertainment. And Ron Lucas was just starting to get really big. You know, if social media was back then, he would have been, you know, the Jeff Dunham of today.
Right.
So I went up to Ron, and I'm like, I'm working at some clothing store. I'm like, you know, 15 or whatever. I'm like, oh, haven't I seen you before? And he's like, well, you know, I hope so. I've been trying to break in the business for like 20 years now. So he was super nice. He kind of introduced me to it. And then years later, after not working with puppets for a while, I was doing stand-up, and I met Dan Horn. I was a stage tech. I was like 17 as a stage tech in a show he was in. And he said, you know, the comedy boom's hitting and everyone's just doing stand-up, another guy in front of a microphone. You should put the puppets back in the act and it'll be more marketable. So I completely blame him for ruining my entire life.
Well, that's great. I hope he's able to tune in tonight.
He has apologized many times.
Yeah, yeah. Well, now you also worked with Sesame Street. Could you talk a little bit about that and how that influences your puppeteering today?
Yeah, sure. I think like most people who enjoy children's television or even just puppetry. Jim Henson was a huge, influence in so many different ways. And I was, even when I was 6, like I was stressed out that I wouldn't grow up fast enough to learn how to drive to get to New York to audition for the show. It would be off the air by that time. I was super Jewish and worried already. But through a series of events, I started working with them. I had met Jim Henson, but I never worked alongside of him. I was a kid with my parents on a tram car at MGM Studios, and the guy said, "Oh, and our studios to the left are being rented out by Jim Henson Productions." And I leaped off the tram while it was moving. I'm like, "I'll meet you at the end, Mom," and I crawled under a fence and I walked in and I'm like, "Oh, hi, I'm here to," I had a little voice. I'm like, "Hi, I'm here to see Jim Henson," and they're like, "Oh, well, how'd you get in? He's not here right now." And then he walked in. And we talked for a little bit. I'm like, "Oh, Mr. Henson, I'm going to work for you one day." "Oh, I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to that." And he gave me his address and he said I could write to him. And eventually I got a letter from someone in the office. It wasn't him. And they paid for my bus ticket to come up to New York from Philadelphia to intern kind of and work in the workshop. I really wasn't a very good intern because all the interns were in college, when I was like 4 years younger. I was not helpful at all. But years later, through a series of events, I was puppeteering with them for an amount of time. And yeah, it was great. I mean, it was very hard because some of them want you to be respectful of the history and the puppets and their superstars, and others don't want you to be a fan. It's a little Game of Thronesy at that time, and even still today. But I was happy, so I got less time than some with that company and more time than most. So it was great. And yeah, it definitely telegraphed how I wanted to do the puppets in my act. Only until recently did I purchase a hard figure. And I just knew that I wanted soft characters. I liked the ability of manipulation. It was ventriloquism. It gets a really big eye roll from people. They don't really want to come to the show unless they're already there for something else. And so we have a lot of things that work against us. And one of those is projecting a sensibility, visual or audio wise or comedically, that the audience already knows. They'll be like, they'll check out and they say, "Oh, I already know what this is. I don't need to pay attention to this." So I really didn't want the wooden characters. Although it's funny because over the years, when I have puppeteered for film and TV, like special effects, they always want the wooden character.
Because it's the typical run-of-the-mill ventriloquist type stereotype they're going for.
Or when I go to audition, they want a ventriloquist for a commercial. They always want a wooden character. So I'd have to borrow one from someone else to go do the audition,
Wow, that's interesting. Are there any aspects to puppeteering? I know it's a totally different type of puppeteering when you're on stage and you're fully visible to the audience, but that you've, maybe subtleties or nuances that you've taken and that you use on stage today.
Yeah, it's a very, and I'm just speaking from a directorial standpoint, and it's only my opinion. And there's room for everybody and everyone can enjoy the art form, but it's a very small percentage of ventriloquists that are good, really good puppeteers, strong puppeteers. Because the rules of puppeteering for television are very different than the rules of puppeteering for stage. I focus in a broader manipulation, unless you're just recording your act on television, then you can do it however you wrote the act,
Right,
but
so you have to play it bigger when you're on stage, is what you're saying?
It's bigger on stage. Your eye focus is different. But also I think it worked better in my favor to work on television first, because my manipulation was very intricate and intimate, and it's better to have that in your vernacular first than broad and having to scale back. Okay. But it's the same as being an actor, like a theater actor. It's really big and mugs all over the place. And then you get on camera and they're like, "Can you be just about 80% less?" And then you feel like you're not doing anything,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. You talked a little bit about how you just now added the hard figure. Could you talk about that and what persuaded you to make that addition?
Can I just say, someone said, "Landon, you need more light on your face." But actually, this is like a 20/20 interview, so we don't really get to see what he fully looks like, because he's going to reveal something terrible about someone. I'm sorry, your question was about getting my new hard figure?
Yeah, you know, what was the? I don't know if I can fix that.
I'll tell you what it was. I mean, the expense can be just the same,
Sure.
but the truth of the matter is they were heavy, and I didn't want to carry them.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest thing. They're a pain, and you know, also most of them, if they're not custom made for you, they're not left-handed controls. Like I've made a career out of learning how to do weird curve arounds to manipulate you know.
Oh, that's right, because you're a left-handed puppeteer.
Right.
Wow,
right. It's a pain.
Yeah.
So they're like, you know, none of the posts of this are made for lefties unless it's custom made. But also I found that you know, I don't know. I just thought that I had more ability and more shelf life with a character that was soft. Now, that being said, I really like the genre of manipulation with hard figures. You know, there's something very specific about that style of manipulation, which can, again, be done well or not well. But, you know, there's many ventriloquists who cash in on not doing it well, and that's their gimmick, right? That's what makes it so clunky and campy and funny. So you just kind of have to know what you're watching,
whether they know that or not.
Right. I mean, sometimes they don't realize how hilarious they are, and some people who are like evil geniuses do know and don't telegraph to the audience that they really know.
Well, that's interesting. So what is this new character that you're talking about? Could you reveal?
Yeah. So in general, I have a lot of pet peeves about people's character development, my own included.
Sure.
There've been many characters, as you know, we've discussed this recently, that I have a great idea, but it's only a great idea in concept, and then it's a one-trick wonder, a one joke, or just there's no shelf life or real meat to it, Right. So I don't like generic characters. It has to have a hook and also a storyline. Like, for instance, I have the world's oldest gymnast. I never act familiar enough to this character like I know them, because in real life, I would never get the opportunity to really know this person unless you created a storyline that's way too much of a stretch for the audience. So I'm not old. I'm not athletic. I'm not professional in right. athletics. She's older than me. We won't relate to many things. I don't pretend that she knows my name. It's almost like an interview, so it's a spontaneous introduction. I don't pull her out of a box, any of that stuff. So when it came to a wooden character, really, I just wanted, I had seen someone build one, and it was a very unique look. It wasn't that it was overly designed, but it was a little on the anime side. It wasn't the standard creepy eye look with the lockjaw, and all that.
Right. Something friendlier.
And I just really liked it. So I got it just to kind of play with. And, generally the characters are created with a background. And, I don't really love making the audience members try to remember a name. Hi, this is Billy. Hi, this is Chucky. I think no one remembers that. It's only important to the ventriloquist, and it's dumb. So, I did something kind of English. He is my nephew. So I'm like, he's like, Uncle, can you do this? Hey, yes, nephew. It's very formal. It's very English. Everyone remembers that it's my nephew. They don't have to remember some random name, and it's been fun. There's two ways I can go with it. I can be, very clean and cute with it without being schmaltzy. And also it's never difficult to make, an innocent character say naughty things.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, what was it like when you got that character, since you'd been working years with the soft ones?
Well, I'm not unfamiliar with working the characters, but any puppet, whether it's soft or hard figures, they all have their own abilities to manipulate. So, right, I mean, whether it's what your physical arm and hand allow you to do, what your motor skills allow you to do, and what the character can do. And sometimes the limitations of a character, what might seem like limitations in the build, might actually be good body language that helps with your character background and development. So with this one, actually, there were a lot of build issues that, I didn't get to see it. It was built by somebody else. Yeah, and I wasn't in the same town, but the price was right and I liked it. But there were a series of build issues, and although aesthetically, very beautiful,
Right.
I was surprised at how it was built and things that I thought the builder might know about. When I asked other people had they utilized his services, they said yes, and we love him. But they were people that don't work on stage with a microphone, and they're working in a park with a bunch of homeless people watching them. So
a park or their Boy Scout event, once every few years,
which is awesome. Like I'm just saying that I couldn't get away with it. And technically it was very problematic. So I kind of don't want to put a ton of money into it, but I have a few people working on different parts that each builder has a specialty in,
Sure. That's really neat.
But it's a great examination. Like, it's so nice to work with something without the expectancy of a result. It's like, usually we're manufacturing comedy and characters and things to build the show, and you want it to be good, or people are going to be like, oh, he's lost it, or he never had it, or whatever. But this is a really nice exploration that is really just for me. So it gives a lot of room, kind of like when you first start out and you do something just from the passion of it instead of because it has to pay your rent.
Sure. What's interesting in seeing you introduce this new character is that you've done a lot of videos for social media and gotten some good responses too.
Yeah, I'll do one-off conversational things, and then I'll do little jokes and bits and whatever, and it's what many of us call too short to suck.